Good afternoon and welcome. This is Spotlight Africa, and we're coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. Uyai MM. Today on Spotlight Africa, BRICS leaders unite to tackle global trade tension and United States tariffs. Africa aims to lead in green investments after United States quit Paris Agreement. ECOWAS Lassa FIFA conference begins in Abidjan. Ethiopia's Grand Renaissance Dam inauguration gives new hope to many Ethiopians. Plus, M23 rebels recapture a town in eastern DRC as peace talks stall. These stories are all just ahead of Spotlight Africa. Stay with us. Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. We're bringing you stories all around the continent, and we begin with Ivory Coast, where presidential race took a dramatic turn on Monday as two major opposition figures were officially barred from next month's election. The Constitutional Council announced that former President Lawrence Gbagbo and former Credit Suisse CEO Tidjane Thiam are ineligible to run in the October 25th vote. The council cited their removal from the electoral roll as the reason for their exclusion. Thiam, leader of the PDCI Ivory Coast, largest opposition party, was revealed in April due to nationality-related legal issues after acquiring French citizenship. Gbagbo, head of the African People's Party, Ivory Coast, was excluded because of a past criminal conviction. Despite these disqualifications, both men had formally submitted their candidacy to challenge President Alassane Ouattara, who is seeking a fourth term at the age of 83. With their exclusion, 5 candidates remain in the race, including former First Lady Simone Havets Gbagbo and former ministers Jean-Louis Billon, Haoula Don Mello, and Henriette Logo. The final list signals a sharply reshaped contest just weeks before the vote. African leaders are aiming to offer a global model for tackling the climate crisis through green investments, they said on Monday, after the United States withdrawal from the Paris Climate Agreement deflated the fight against climate change. The continent, which has been buffeted by landslides, floods and droughts this year, is holding its second climate summit in Ethiopia, seeking a common voice ahead of global climate talks in Brazil at the COP30 summit. Leaders have been positioning the 54-nation continent as ripe for investments in carbon capture, renewable energy, critical minerals for green technology and food production to keep development on track amid the climate crisis. He called for a new Africa Climate Innovation Initiative funded by the continent, bringing together African universities, research institutions, startups, rural communities and inventors to deliver 1,000 solutions to tackle climate challenges by 2030. Away from that, many Ethiopians are looking forward to finally getting connected to the national electricity grid once the country's new mega dam becomes fully operational. Ethiopia's controversial Grand Renaissance Dam is being inaugurated this Tuesday, 14 years after its construction began. Among those celebrating is 38-year-old Furnace Adate. She lives in the Menubuku district, just 10 kilometers outside Addis Ababa, and raises her 7 children alone. She sees the dam as a welcome development. The project's construction began in 2011 with a $4 billion budget, With its 1,800 meters long and 175 meters high, it is now the largest dam in Africa. It is expected to produce more than 5,000 megawatts, doubling Ethiopia's current output, part of which will be exported to neighboring countries. The country insists it is a crucial development to help pull many of its citizens out of poverty. In a separate development, on Monday, Russian President Vladimir Putin joined an extraordinary BRICS summit in via video link, a virtual meeting convened by Brazil to address growing global concerns over U.S. President Donald Trump's sweeping trade tariffs. According to the Kremlin, BRICS leaders discussed expanding cooperation in trade, finance, investment, and more, all while grappling with growing volatility in the global economy. Trump's tariffs have shaken markets, strained alliances, and raised fears of inflation and slower growth. Yet, he defends them as necessary, saying the United States would be on the brink of economic catastrophe without them. From Beijing, Chinese President Xi Jinping used the summit to double down on multilateralism. He called it the shared aspiration of the people and proposed a new global governance initiative to promote equity and reform in international institutions. Xi urged stronger support for the United Nations system, fairer global representation for the global south, and a more democratic international order to face the common challenges of humanity. The summit, chaired by Brazil's President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, brought together leaders from Russia, South Africa, Egypt, Iran, Indonesia, the UAE, India, and Ethiopia. Elsewhere, hundreds of protesters on Monday responded to a call from civil society to take to the streets of Yoruba and Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Citizens protested the recent appointment of General Olivia Gasita Mukunda as Deputy Commander of the 33rd Military Region of the DRC's Armed Forces. Protesters demanded Gasita's removal, accusing him of having collaborated with the Rwandan-backed M23 rebels during the seizure of Bukavu last February. Waving banners, signs, and national flags, demonstrators chanted slogans against General Gasita before submitting a memorandum to the local authorities addressed to the President Felix Tshisekedi. Located in South Kivu, Uvira is currently under the control of a coalition formed by the FARDC and Wazalendo militias. Mpanzi Muyembwa, the president of the Uvira Civil Society Synergy, fear that Gasita's appointment is a sign that authorities are willing to hand over the city to the rebels. Police and the army oversaw the march, which proceeded peacefully until warning shots were fired during the demonstration's dispersal, causing panic. Meanwhile, civil society reports at least 4 deaths and several injuries, a toll not yet confirmed by local authorities. The FARDC had already called for calm last weekend, warning against any manipulation orchestrated by enemies and reaffirming their support for the contested officer. In another development, International Criminal Court prosecutors will present evidence on later today to back up charges of war crimes against humanities against notorious fugitive Ugandan warlord Joseph Kony at the Global Court's first ever in absentia hearing. Kony faces dozens of counts of crimes against humanity and war crimes including murder, sexual enslavement and rape for allegedly leading the brutal Lord's Resistance Army that terrorized northern Uganda. Moving forward without Kony is seen as a test case for other proceedings where the suspect is not in custody. For example, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu or Russian President Vladimir Putin. The hearing is not a trial but all allows prosecutors to outline their case in court. Kony will be represented in his absence by a defense lawyer. After weighing the evidence, judges can rule on whether or not to confirm the charges against Kony, but he cannot be tried in his absence. By 2005, facing pressure from Uganda's military, Kony's LRA had been weakened and its members forced to splinter and flee into neighboring countries including Sudan and Congo, where they settled into wide expanses of ungoverned bush. Meanwhile, the Economic Community of West Africa Lassa Fever International Conference began yesterday in Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire. The four-day conference is organized by the West Africa Health Organization. The theme of the conference is Beyond Borders, strengthening regional cooperation to combat Lassa fever and emerging infectious diseases. Building on the first Lassa International Conference held in Abuja in 2019, this second edition will feature plenary sessions, panels, workshops, and research presentations. It will also contribute to a regional roadmap focused on improving access to diagnostics, vaccines, and coordinated disease control efforts. Tunisia becomes second team after Morocco to qualify for FIFA Cup. Stay tuned for details of this and more after this time out.
Broadening your horizon is what every living being not only genuinely desires, but heartily pursues and intentionally invests in. For in the gathering of men, only those whose minds are in tune with the dynamics of the past, present, and future innovations, inventions, politics, and governance are respected. We are Spectrum Television, and broadening your horizon is our obsession. Risk on your decoder now to connect Spectrum Television on the frequency 12589. Simple. That is polarization horizontal, and join our online community at spectrumtvlive.ng. For further enquiries, please call 0704 158 5642 or 0704 541 7707. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Welcome back and thanks for staying tuned. Still on Spotlight Africa, we head now to the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, where the M23 rebel group has recaptured the town of Shoa in North Kivu province just one day after it briefly fell under the control of the Congolese army and pro-government Wazalendo militia. Residents say the rebels launched a surprise offensive early Sunday, forcing the Wazalendo to retreat. Heavy fighting rocked the area Saturday, but calm returned by Sunday morning. The town of Shoa sits in Masisi territory, a region rich in gold, cobalt and tantalum, and a hotbed of violence for over 3 months as rebels and government forces battle for control. This latest clash comes despite ongoing peace efforts. In July, the DRC and rebel groups, including M23, signed a ceasefire in Doha, but fighting has only intensified. Meanwhile, the Congolese government, the United Nations, and Western nations accuse Rwanda of backing M23, a claim Kigali strongly denies. We move now to Nigeria, where the jihadist group Boko Haram has killed more than 60 people in an overnight attack in Nigeria's northeastern Borno state, local officials reported. On Friday night, militants struck the village of Darun Jamal, home to a military base on the Nigeria-Cameroon border, killing at least 5 soldiers. The Nigerian Air Force said it killed 30 militants in strikes after receiving reports of the raid on the village, where residents had recently returned following years of displacement. The attack comes amid a resurgence in jihadist activity in Nigeria's northeast, with Boko Haram fights and rivals, the West African branch of the Islamic State group, stepping up attacks. According to reports, more than 20 houses and 10 buses were destroyed in Darun Jamal, while at least 13 drivers and laborers who had been working on reconstruction efforts in the town were killed. Away from that, Tunisian authorities have denied claims that one of the Gaza-bound vessels carrying aid and pro-Palestinian activists, including Greta Thunberg, was attacked by a drone. The organizers of the flotilla, Global Summit Flotilla (GSF), said that the Portuguese-flagged vessel had been struck by a drone while anchored outside the port of Sidi Bou, said in Tunisia. All 6 passengers and crew were safe, they added. A spokesperson for Tunisia's National Guard told the agency France Presse News that no drone had been detected and the investigation was ongoing. Reports say the humanitarian aid flotilla set sail from Barcelona last week and arrived in Tunisia on Sunday. The GSF said their family boat was struck in Tunisian waters and fire had damaged the main deck. In a series of videos published to their Instagram, spokespeople for the GSF said an incendiary device caused a fire on board the vessel, which the crew was able to extinguish. Lastly, on Spotlight Africa, Mohamed Ali Ben Romden sent Tunisia to the World Cup with a goal in the 4th minute of injury time that secured a 1-0 win over Equatorial Guinea on Monday in qualifying. Reports say Romden was teed up by fellow substitute Firas Kaugat and sparked wild celebrations for the visitors on the track behind the goal. Tunisia needed a win to secure a spot at next year's tournament in North America with 2 games to spare. It tops Group H with 22 points from 8 games, 10 points ahead of second place Namibia, which has a game in hand. Tunisia has yet to concede a goal in qualifying. It is the 7th time Tunisia has qualified for the World Cup and 3rd in a row. It advanced to the group stage in 2018 and 2022. In another Group H match, Malawi came back from a 2-goal deficit to draw 2-2 with Liberia, with goals from Badino and Mbago Nkango in the 72nd and 80th minute respectively. In Group G, Algeria played to a goalless draw against Guinea and remained top of the group with 19 points, 4 more than Uganda. Uganda maintained the pressure by beating Somalia 2-0, tying Mozambique on 16 points. And these are all the stories we're able to bring to you around the continent at this time. Do well to follow us on social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, Spectrum TV Live Detention. Spotlight Africa, I am Uyai MM. Good afternoon.